Good evening, sir.
Somia, you can start, Somia.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Adarsh has asserted its supremacy over others in catering educational and existential needs of the children in all possible ways. One of the many is the creation of AVKONNECT, the virtual platform, a remote platform, which makes yourself accessible to the expertise far and wide. We have met many extraordinary personalities who sway over their own field. Today is a new day, a new opportunity, and we are going to meet yet another stalwart in the field of communication skills. Communication skills plays a vital role along with some others in the development of students in this 21st century. The skills we need for the 21st century, to name a few: creativity, critical thinking, leadership, technology, and so on. In order to inspire us to fine tune our skills, we have with us an expert, Mr. Vinod Menon, the guest of the evening at Others Connect. I welcome him on behalf of you all. Hearty welcome, sir.
Thank you, Soumya.
It's my pleasure to welcome few dignified persons. I welcome Mrs. Malini Venugopal, Principal, Adarsh School, on behalf of everyone present here. Welcome you, ma'am. I welcome Mr. V.R. Binamo, the Principal of Adarsh Vidya Kendra, Betuni, madam. Welcome, sir. It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Venkateshwaran Krishnan, Principal of Adarsh Vidya Kendra, Kunarkulam. Hearty welcome, sir. My
Thank
special
you.
welcome goes to all the parents here. I also take this opportunity to welcome all the teachers here. Finally and importantly, I welcome all the students of Adarsh for whom the program is arranged. Now, I'd like to give a brief introduction about the expert here. As the Regional Sales Director at Bureau Van Dyke, Mr. Vinod Menon is responsible for building and driving the strategic roadmap for Moody's Bureau Van Dyke in the South Asian region. He has a master's degree in strategic marketing communication from the University of Greenwich, London. Over the last 6 years at Moody's BVD, he has successfully developed their portfolio with double-digit year-over-year growth in the South Asian region by developing robust relationships with the market regulators and strategic clients. He is passionate about human psychology and certified practitioner of NLP. Such a dignified person is amidst us. It's a great opportunity to have him here. Now, I request our respectable principal, Mrs. Malini Venugopal, to inaugurate the program. Please, ma'am.
Warm welcome and good evening to Honorable Chairman. He is not here. I think he will be joining later. Then our principals, Binamon and Venkateshwar Krishnan, and teachers, parents and students, and our chief guest, Vinod Menon, to this program. So usually our chairman used to give this inaugural address. So now I think it's my privilege to give this address on this pleasant evening. And all our Connect programs were highly successful. And I think the students are eagerly waiting for this program because this helps them a lot for their future life. So they get new information and a new window is open for them. And this communicative skill, because the communication is a gift given to only human beings, and you have to make it perfect during the process of your education. So the future is waiting for the people who can speak effectively and who can create an impact on the listeners. So students, you listen carefully to his presentation and you have to take down some notes and you have to think about it later, and you all of you should become effective communicators. That is our expectation about our students. So you have to make the school proud of you, you have to make their parents proud of you, and wherever you go, you should be able to go to a stage and address the public. So for that, you have to develop the communicative skill. So thank you, and we are waiting for a wonderful session by Vinod. He was a student of mine, and he is a member of our family also. So please, students, please listen to him and take down some notes and imbibe, or you have to absorb everything that you listen properly. Thank you. Thank you, parents and teachers and all my students, and special thanks to Vinod.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your thought-provoking words. Now it's time for you, sir. You can proceed with your presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, ma'am. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's really actually something which I've been wanting to do for a long time, to give back to the school, and it's come in the form of this presentation. Thank you very much, Malli ma'am, for facilitating this. Honorable Principal, Mr. Binimon, Mr. Venkateshwaran, Mr. Rajan, Honorable Chairman, thank you very much for this opportunity. To the students and to the parents as well, it's really a pleasure meeting you. I'm imagining all of you that you're in front of me. In this day and age where we have to present virtually, imagination plays a key role, I guess, as well as communication skills. So with that, I'm going to start my presentation. So let me just share my screen first. Give me a second. Can you tell me if you can see my screen? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Brilliant. Okay. So let's kick off a presentation with a run of the show. So for today, I wanted to first start by giving introductions, just giving a background of myself. Then we will go on to set the premise for today's presentation. What is a background? Why is communication skills flaunted as one of the important skills for the 21st century? And then we'll move to the foundational pillars of what makes an effective communication. And then finally, I'd like to tee off today's session by giving an overview of what we call as a conscious creation. How do we move on from a journey from learning to mastery? There's a lot of things that we learn in our life, but these days what we see is there's a lot of jack of all trades, but master of none. So there is one skill which it doesn't matter whichever trade or whichever profession that you pick up, that is quite effective, and that's today's topic as well. So just to give a bit of a background for myself, my name is Vinod Menon. Born in Kerala, brought up in Kerala. Obviously, as Malli ma'am said, I'm one of Malli ma'am's family member as well. At this point in time, right now, I'm a director at Moody's Bureau Van Dyke, and kudos to Soumya for saying that name right. In my years of working with Bureau Van Dyke in India, I've been with this company for about, I think, 8 years now, approaching 9 years in end of November. There are very few people who have said the name Bureau Van Dyke. So yeah, kudos to Soumya for saying that right. I noticed that. So that's my title. That's my professional title. But I also have a life beyond my work as a director at Bureau Van Dyke. I'm also I call myself a yogi at night. And that's because obviously from all the hustle and bustle from work, there is a life outside of that as well. And everybody tends to associate whatever they do just to their profession. If anybody asks them, "What do you do?" "I'm a director." But beyond that, there is there are passions, there are likes, there are hobbies that you should probably associate yourself to as well. So I'd like to call myself a yogi beyond the fact that I'm working as a director in Bureau Van Dyke. I'm a proud father of a 5-year-old son. Why is that important? I guess that's a very important title that I carry for myself as well, because that's a big responsibility. I'm bringing up a new generation into this world, and I see that through my son, and I see that through students as well. My wife is also a teacher, like Malli ma'am, and that's something that we kind of bring in, inculcate in our culture on a day-to-day life to ensure that the generation that comes up is also brought to the skills that they need. So a bit of a background for myself. As I said, I was born in Kerala, in Cochin, if you've been there. So from the age of, till the age of 25, I would say, obviously I did my schooling there, I did my degree in Coimbatore. So konja Tamil theriyum. But apart from that, most of my life was spent around in Kerala. As a student or as a young boy, I would say, there were no sessions like these actually in my school. So I applaud Adarsh Vidyalaya for conducting sessions like these beyond the curriculum which is prescribed by the country, to inculcate skills in students as well. So I was pretty aimless. I didn't know. I mean, obviously, I did my schooling. Schools are very important as a foundation for your education. But beyond that, there's a lot of other skill sets that one needs to develop in this day and age to be successful. Most of you obviously go through your schooling, then probably you might take up an engineering degree or maybe any professional course. But beyond that, there are so many other skills that you can possibly pick up. And I think, my breakthrough happened when I was 25, when I happened to attend a course in UK, London, when I was studying over there. I finished my master's. I'm still aimless, I would say, a little bit, and mildly confused. But I think that course basically showed me that there is a world beyond that, and if you want to really be the master of that world, there are two skill sets that one needs to master, and I'll come to that in a little bit. So from 25 to I'm 37 right now. I've pretty much traveled around the world, spoken at large conferences. Right now, heading a team based out of Singapore and Bangalore. And obviously, in a position where I am advising governments, financial institutions, corporations, large corporations, how to mitigate risk and how to be, making better decisions in their business processes. How did I come and be at this level, in a matter of maybe 5 to 12 years? That journey is because I, gave so much importance to the skill called communication skill, because it doesn't matter whatever you do, whichever profession you take up, that's one skill which you need to master. So let's look at what is the role of communication in the 21st century. So right now we are living in a world where things are picking up so quickly. I mean, the world is changing so quickly. In fact, they say that you have so much information coming to an average individual, which a normal person would have possibly had from 0 to 40 years. An average 40-year-old would have not consumed so much information as much one would consume in a single day. That's the kind of influx of data that's coming in. So how do you rummage through that and focus on what is important for you? So from that perspective, two skill sets, I would say, is most important for you to be able to deliver in this 21st century is one is the ability to communicate your ideas and thoughts clearly and concisely. And the second one is developing relationship with high quality networks, building a network around you. So let's unpack these two ideas one by one. When you talk about communication, obviously this is not something that you think about only when you are 15, 20 or 25 or 30. That's something that we start off at the age of maybe 2, 3, even small babies communicate in their own way. But obviously humans communicate in a specific way that we are able to pack ideas together, thoughts together, and at the same time deliver that information through our memory as well. That's why us humans are different from all other animals or any other mammals around us that we see as well. The second is the ability to develop relationships. When we were foragers, back in the days, let's say 20 to 40,000 years ago, when we were foragers in the forest, there were so many varieties of humans, right? Homo sapiens, as we know as humans, is one variety of humans. There was Homo erectus, Homo neanderthals, Homo habilis. There's so many varieties of the Homo mammal that evolved out of apes. Now, the only one which survived all the years and all the Holocaust that happened is Homo sapiens. The reason for that is the ability for us to stick together as groups and the ability to network and share ideas. And that's why us Homo sapiens are the most successful of them all. Now, from that perspective as well, if you take a leaf out of that, if you want to be successful in the 21st century, it's these two skills still remain as one of the key aspects for you to really be able to deliver and lead a company, or at the same time, transmit information even to your school for that matter. So that's why these two skills are flaunted as two important skills of the 21st century. Now, if you are able to develop something like this, what that helps you is obviously get good at your grades. Obviously, you get good marks in your orals, or your, what do you call, you have your I forget the name of that term where you Viva, is it called Viva? I forget the name. Yeah, so obviously the ability to communicate is more important in any aspect. Maybe your interview or your job as well. Now, when you look at but this one skill, obviously, which is more important, it is also the biggest fear of a human being as well. A recent survey stated that an average person's greatest fear is to have a speech in the public. And that's ranked even higher than death. Can you beat that? Death was third on the list. I forget what was second, but public speaking is flaunted as the biggest fear of any human being. So the joke goes by Jerry Seinfeld: if you're at a funeral, most people would rather be in the coffin than stand up there and give the eulogy. And that's the joke. I mean, you'd rather be dead than give a speech. That's how scary it is for some people. But it is not so difficult to master. Now let's look at the definition of communication. Communication is defined as the act of gracefully transmitting messages and ideas. It involves a variety of behaviors, processes, toolkits by which meaning is transmitted or derived from information. Now that's key over here. Obviously, we would think just giving information is communication, but let's look at it differently. Information by itself, can be so many variety of ideas, thoughts come together, but deriving meaning out of that, feeling out of that is what makes communication effective. The term communication itself comes from the Latin term communicare, which means share, impart, and partake. Because if you yourself are talking, just going on talking, that is not communication. That is just a monologue. But if you have feedback coming from them, and if it's a two-way conversation, then obviously communication is something which is a group affair. Weaver and Shannon, who were researchers from 1948, says that all communication intends to address three main objectives. What are they? How accurately the symbols of communication can be transmitted, how precisely these symbols carry the intended meaning, and how effectively the meaning affects the behavior in a desired way. Now, for today's session, I'm going to basically focus on the symbols and also how we can derive meaning out of these behaviors. I just want to just pause here for a moment and take a pause to just unpack this for you, to tell you, why is it important to change a behavior? Because all of us have cultures, and all of us have education, all of us have ideologies. Through the schooling period, the schools help us shape these ideologies. But once you reach your adulthood, it gets very difficult for you to change these behaviors. So it is only through effective communication that you will be able to make them think from a different perspective than what your culture, what your family, what your school So I've sometimes told you as well. Most schools are very effective in this process, but I guess there are a lot of places where I guess religion, your background setting, all of these basically brings in strong ideologies and forms a very strong behavior. So it is to kind of make you think from a different perspective that communication can be useful as well. Okay. Now, I'd like to, before going to the next session, I'd like all of you to maybe go to slido.com if all of you have a device, a mobile device or a computer device. If it's possible, I'd like you to go to a browser and open slido.com, SLIDO.com. And once you're there, I'm just going to share my screen to show you what Slido looks like. It looks like this. Once you're there, it'll ask you for a code. And if you could enter 212525 as a code. Yeah, I guess we are there. So I just want to ask a simple question. What skill sets do you need to strengthen to be a speaker you want to be? From your perspective, what are some of the skill sets that you need to strengthen to be the speaker you want to be? I hope you're able to join. Malini ma'am, are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Yes. Were you able to enter the answer? Maybe if one of you can possibly demonstrate this. I just wanted to make this session as interactive as possible rather than hearing a monologue. I just wanted people to just think as well. So that's why, I hope this is something that everybody can partake in. Very good. I can see answers coming in. Confidence. That's definitely, yeah. Here we have more people talking about confidence, communication skill. What particular communication skill would you possibly need? Are there any attributes to the communication skills that you would need? Is it your, obviously confidence is one of them. Listening skills, there we go, that's a good one. Okay, good language, okay. Understanding people. Knowledge about language, of course, that's a very, very big one. I would say, obviously English is not just the one language. Understanding the nuances of each language obviously brings in nuances of each particular language. Interacting skills, I guess, interpersonal skills, definitely yes. Well aware of the topic, very good. That's one of the topics that we will explore today as well. Content. Content is the king, knowing your subject really well helps you being a good communicator. Okay, here we have some answers, and obviously confidence is probably the highest rated answer over here. So we'll keep this going for some time. But again, I also want to ask one more question. Now that we know these are the skill sets that you need to strengthen to be a good speaker, I'd like to ask now, in your next question, what is stopping you from being the speaker that you wish to be? What are some of the reasons that stops you? Fear, yes, absolutely. Fear of the unknown. Hesitation, yeah, should I do it? I don't know. Language, yeah, not having good command of the language. Nervousness, absolutely, yes. That I'm sure most people would probably attest to that. Fear of being mocked. Yeah, again, that sometimes happens as well. Will you make fun of me? Well, am I doing something wrong? Ooh. Nervousness again, yeah. And having nerves, having butterflies as if some lion's coming chasing you, right? Fear of being judged, right? Absolutely, yes. Lack of confidence, nervousness again. Yeah, so these are some of the reasons why people, obviously can't become the speaker that they want to be. I mean, if you think about it from this perspective, guys, I think, any profession that you take, any profession in the world, people who make a lot of money, people that you love for, people that you die for, are people who bring an effective state change in you, make you feel good. And almost all of them, whoever is your idol, almost all these guys are very good orators, if you will. I mean, take Barack Obama, for example, or Nehru, for example, or Narendra Modi, for example. All of these guys are excellent orators. And obviously they've been able to go past all these fears to be able to reach the place that they're in. So that's what we're going to explore right now. Now, thank you for all the participation. Appreciate that. Now let's go back into our presentation. Now, let's look at what makes a good speaker. Okay. Confident communicators, they are people who can connect with others through words, gestures, voice. Okay. Confident communicators, people who, obviously communicate well, they communicate well through words, gestures, and voice, because communication is not just about relaying information. Then I can send you an email probably, right? Or send you a text or a WhatsApp message. That is also communication. But when you communicate, you use words, you use gestures, your hands, your facial expressions, your body for that matter. Now, I want to ask you, of the three, words, gestures, and voice, which one do you think is the most impactful while determining your attitude and effectiveness? I'm just going to go back into the poll again and launch that. All I need you to do is just select. If you stay back in the poll again, go back there. I'd like you to select which one of these three. Words, gestures, or voice. There we go. Words, 100%. All these three are required to have an effective communication. We have three people all selecting words, gestures, and each. Okay, there the poll goes again. Right. Very good. The poll goes up again. Brilliant. I think that's kind of the representation of what it looks like. Very good. I love that. So a survey conducted by UCLA found out that from what you communicate, even though one would imagine words are important, gestures, voice, and words, out of which gestures is basically 38%, voice is 55%, and words is 7%. So that's exactly what it is. So when you're communicating, it's not just about the words that you say, it is the gestures, it's the voice and the words coming together to form effective communication. And that's what we're going to go and look at now. How do we kind of chisel these three aspects in communication, right? Now, one of the things I also want to say is, as a confident communicator, he also looks like he means, he knows what he's talking about. He also knows and talks as if he knows what he's talking about. Obviously, he has to mean and he has to sound like he knows what he's talking about. A good speaker also connects through stories and emotions. Obviously, whatever we're saying right now, even if it's analytical, even if it is, a story that you went somewhere, or, communicating a message or delivering an essay, when delivered in the format of stories, we tend to remember them well. And that is human nature. If you look at kids, for that matter, they love listening to stories to go to sleep. They love listening and reading stories, right? So that is a trait that we bring ourselves up with. And somehow or the other, when we are, immersed in the world of information, we tend to be so factual and obviously forget the art of storytelling. So any confident storyteller, if you take and if you look at him, he will be able to communicate his message through strong stories and emotions. And a strong communicator also makes you feel like he's talking directly to you. Doesn't matter even if there's hundreds of thousands in the crowd, in the audience, doesn't matter. It feels like he's talking directly to you because he is communicating and he's using all these three modalities in communication, which is voice, gestures, and words. Now, what's holding you back? That's what we just discussed right now. These are some of the reasons which hold people back from becoming very effective communicators. One, the biggest one is lack of preparation. We tend to spend so much time till the end of the presentation preparing for it. Same we go for exam as well. We study till the last minute. But are we rehearsing that in a way? I mean, there's no point in just mugging up all the information and doing all the preparation, but you're not rehearsing enough. So, when you don't do that, the problem is that you'll feel like you don't know the subject well enough. When you know the subject well enough, and this I tell you is the biggest one to become a strongest communicator, when you know your subject really well, you don't have to think, you don't have to use your memory. It's because it's in your skin, it's in your DNA, it's in your bones, right? So the only thing that you can do to change that is prepare and rehearse enough. And we'll talk about that more as we go. Second one, as you guys mentioned, fear of audience. What if they challenge me? Yeah. What if they ask me something? What if they ask me a question? What will I do? Oh my God, I don't know. And of course, if you had an experience like that in the past, you will end up remembering things, and you'll always think, what if I screw up like I did last time? Oh my God, what would I do? Right? I mean, the past patterns. Our brain has a nature. There's a portion in our brain called the amygdala, which is the one basically bringing back all these past memories. The single duty of amygdala is to keep you safe. And to keep you safe, what does it do? It looks at past patterns to see, has there been any experience like that in the past? Then avoid, don't do that again, don't do that again. That's what your brain tells you. So the only way to avoid that is preparing again and again, and then rewiring it. Then the next biggest one is vulnerability. What if I say something wrong? Oh my God, will they know? Will they see? Oh my God, will I have to show my best self only? You don't need to do that, right? I mean, vulnerability, there is so much strength in vulnerability. That's a whole new class in itself. But I just wanted to say that when you are vulnerable, it also means that you're authentic. You're just being your true self, right? That's what vulnerability means. Then the next one is high expectations. There's a lot of perfectionists among us, right? I'm one of them as well. And that tends me from, because of that, I tend to hold back and say, oh no, I've not done this well enough. I need to do a little more. And I keep changing and keep changing and keep changing. And then I don't have enough time to prepare. So starting early and giving a time block for it, we'll talk about that again during time management session. But yeah, that's one of the key things that's stopping you from preparing. The last one is what is called as racing brain syndrome, RBS. RBS basically means that, we all know, we think faster. I mean, right now we are speaking, you must be thinking about, oh, what's for dinner today? Oh my God, where are we going for the weekend? There's so many thoughts that's coming to you while you're listening to me as well. Your brain tends to think more faster than your tongue can speak. So if your brain is thinking faster than your tongue can speak, then obviously you end up messing things up. Okay, so these are some of the things that, if you can avoid these, and these are some of the roadblocks that we need to take off, then we will be our authentic self and we can be a better speaker. Okay, now let's look at the 6 pillars of communication, as we call it, the 6 C's of communication. Okay, so the first one, obviously, like you all highlighted earlier, the first one is confidence. How do we become a confident speaker? The second one is connection, i.e. building connection, interpersonal connection with obviously not just your audience, but also with yourself. The third one is content. When we look at content, it's basically the subject matter. What are we talking about? Today's topic is communication. So that's my subject for today. Knowing well about that subject makes you feel like an expert in that subject. Cadence is the modality, is the tonality, in which you communicate your message. Clarity is, simply put it, simplicity in the way you communicate the message. And the last one is credibility. Credibility is how do you build trust with the audience so that they remember your message clearly. Now let's unpack them one by one. The first one is confidence. Okay, how do you become a confident speaker? Preparation is the key. Bruce Lee, you all know Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee once said, I don't fear the guy who knows 10,000 tricks, but I fear the guy, or I fear my opponent who has practiced one trick 10,000 times. I'll say that again. I don't fear the person who knows 10,000 tricks, but I fear the one person who has practiced one trick 10,000 times. And to unpack that message, if you look at it, preparation is what he's talking about. If you want to be good at any subject, you have to spend time on it. You have to spend preparing, you have to spend rehearsing. You have to look at various aspects of it. Only then you're going to be a master of any subject. There is something called as a 10,000 hour rule. They say, how do you become master in any subject? If you want to be, and take this message, guys, if you want to be a master in any subject, you need to spend 10,000 hours on that one subject. Doing that, if it's that one kick or whatever that is. Once you do that, you will be a master in that subject, because that's nobody else or very few people would have spent so much time on that one aspect. And that's how you become a master in any subject. And hence confidence comes automatically with yourself. Now, when you prepare such a presentation, obviously, when you are in front of a crowd, there are so many things that can come to you, so many things that can go wrong. Tech stuff can go wrong. When I've presented at stages, the first slide you hit enter, and then there goes the connection between the laptop and the projector. And there are 500 to 800 people watching you at that time, and it's like literally like 500 wolves staring at you. So you have to be really looking at all those modalities and all those eventualities that come into it. And the only way you're going to be able to get past all of that is by recording yourself and not forgetting your message. That's the key part, right? I mean, when you come back to your deck, you will probably have forgotten everything that you've learned. If you've not prepared, if you've not recorded yourself, you would have been like, it's like literally, I don't know, you're in the middle of a wolf pack. Now, when something like that happens, and before going on stage, one of the key aspects that I see happen to a lot of people is nervousness. We spoke about that earlier. What is the challenge that's coming through? Nervousness, fear, all of these, anxiety. So basically, what do you need to, in your body doesn't know the difference between anxiety and nervousness. It's the same thing. And if you look at it, when you have anxiety or when you have nervousness, your heart is pumping, you're sweating, your eyes are focused, your pupils are dilated, your heart tends to beat faster. If you notice excitement, it is the exact same function that happens in your body. The only difference is it is your mind that tends to think and classify it as fear or nervousness versus excitement. So if you notice my opening statement in this presentation, how I started off by saying that I'm very honored, I'm very excited to be with you. I've reframed myself from any nervousness coming into me by classifying this event as an exciting event. I'm remembering my past in my school. That's how you reframe yourself, okay? Another aspect is by keeping your voice neutral. Obviously, you don't want to be shouting, you don't want to be too soft, but you want to be keeping it neutral, but by modulating it with the messages and the words that you say. By modulating it, obviously people tend to listen to it, and you will feel like you are coming across as the most confident person as well. The last one is remembering to pause. There is no point, when I'm talking, and if I'm talking about communication, there's so many things that I can talk about communication, but you probably may not remember anything that I just said right now because I said it so fast. But by just taking a moment's pause right now, I'm sure I got your attention back. People who are not looking on the screen, just because I took a pause, you're like, hey, is that guy still speaking? You suddenly get the attention back. Only a confident speaker can pause. Otherwise, you just want to get through your presentation from the first one to the last one, and then finish. Oh my God, I'm done with this. Oh. What's the point in doing anything like that, right? So when you're confident in what you deliver, you can pause. You can take a moment's break. and that also projects confidence. So that's one thing which obviously, it comes with practice. So one skill set that I would say, or one way of training yourself is maybe you can ask your friend, if you're talking too fast, just watch for yourself and just sit back. And when I'm speaking to you right now, as I'm speaking to you, for the most important parts, when I reach a certain critical point, just ask your friend to raise your hand. And that means to pause. And as I go in my presentation, if I feel like I'm talking too fast, again, I raise my hand. And that's basically bringing in, a layer of confidence. So it's a matter of practice, but I guess, you'll get through that. So these are all small attributes, which if you bring into the way you deliver yourself, you will automatically come across as confident. Your heart might be beating like a punching machine, right? It might be racing, but nobody outside knows that. You don't need to show that anxiety to people. And how do you do that? By pausing, by reframing your nervousness, and then basically breathing as well. We'll come to that in a bit. Let's look at confidence as an aspect. And I just want to break that down. What are the aspects of confidence? What are the three pillars of confidence? The first one is charisma. So charisma is the flair in which you present, the flamboyancy that you have in the way you present. And it's like some people that you say, right? I don't know why, but I love this person. I like this person because he's so charismatic. He's so attractive. It might be a smile. It might be the way he looks, the way he acts, the way he stands, the way he speaks. That's charisma. Technical skill is the way you deliver your tone, your vocal modulation, and also the way you deliver your message. Singers, people who act, they all need different technical skills to be able to, obviously deliver their lines or their songs, right? Expertise is the subject, how well you know about the subject. So put all these three things together, and then you have the perfect formula of a confident individual. Okay. Now let's look at the next C, which is connection, right? So connection is how you are connecting with the person in front of you, your audience, or even with yourself as well. Let me tell you this, before you try to make an effort to connect with somebody else, the first part of connection should be with yourself. If you don't connect with yourself, and if you do not connect with your subject, then you're not going to be able to connect with anybody else. Let me tell you that. Okay. And when you are in that space where you're connected with yourself, when you're connected with your subject, and when you are delivering your message, then people obviously are not going to remember, the content of what you delivered, but they are certainly going to remember how you made them feel in that presentation or in that session. That is what is going to be more important, more than the message or anything else. So it's about if you want to make people feel good about it, you need to be able to connect with them at a deeper level. And for that, first you need to connect with yourself. One of the members earlier also mentioned listening skill. Communication is not just about going on a blabbermouth by delivering, a bunch of messages, but it's also the ability to listen for a second, asking feedback, obviously in a crowd, asking them a message, so the more you listen, the more you're able to respond. And I'm not just referring to public speaking here. I'm talking about one-to-one communication with yourself, with your teacher. If you want your teacher to take your side, and if you want your mom to help you, if you want your dad to buy you something, obviously the one skill that you want to make them feel is that you want to make them feel heard, right? So one thing that you need to do, even in your class, when your teachers are delivering any lectures, if you are able to reiterate that information back to your lecturer, he will feel heard, and he or she will feel loved and heard, and then he will want to teach you more or give you more. So I would say active listening is one important aspect of communication and connection as well. The other aspect is relatable experiences and anecdotes. What do I mean by that? The ability to build in examples, the ability to talk to their language. My son is 5-year-old. If I tell him about why he needs to attend online classes, he's not going to understand. But if I tell him, this is how Spider-Man did his class when he was young, now that is actually quite interesting for him, right? That's an interesting anecdote that I can relate to him. So you need to be able to connect with people and examples in the way they like to be heard, right? And that is another way to connect. The ability to see things from their point of view is, again, the same aspect which I just mentioned right now. The idea is to see things from their point of view. It's not just what you need, it's about what they need. And when you are delivering to what they need, then they will start automatically coming to your help and to your assistance as well. The last one is, how do you give them value? And this is always from the perspective of thinking beyond your ego, thinking outside of yourself, because it's not just you who's thinking about you. The other person is also thinking about themselves. So the more you're able to connect with them, the more they will connect back to you. The next one is content. Content, as I said, the subject that you're presenting over here. When you're genuinely passionate about the subject that you're presenting, it shows within you. It shows in your face, because that comes naturally for you. You don't have to think twice about it. When you are, naturally presenting about a subject that you don't know of, you tend to stammer. You tend to think. You tend to, obviously, nerves start kicking in for you. Obviously, that's when judgment starts thinking, what is that person thinking about? Did I say that right? That's because you don't know your subject. When you're talking about something that you love, your favorite TV series or whatever that you are passionate about, maybe it might be arts, it might be crafts, it might be games, it might be a favorite football team. You don't have to think about it, right? It's a natural conversation. That's because it's a subject that you're very passionate about. So if you want to get good at communication, if you want to get good in your subject, then know more about that subject. The next one is believe. When you believe in that subject, it naturally comes to you. It naturally shows up in your face as well. And then that is a message that goes across to your audience quite clearly. Now, how do you do this? When you want to get good at any subject, they say, read at least 5 books about the subject. 5 books related to that single topic, or else there is another medium called TED, TED, TED.com. It's a wonderful platform which talks about technology, education, and design. But there's a whole lot of subject over there as well. You can watch a couple of TED talks, read books. Obviously, internet, Google what you see on Facebook and what you see on social medias. Take that with a pinch of salt. Of course, not all that information may be right. So see from a reputed subject. That's why you need to look for authors and you look for books which are vetted and tried and tested. Then obviously, when you are thinking about a subject to deliver, obviously you need to think, what content does the audience want out of this? What does the audience want to hear from this? What value do they want? So, for example, when I was preparing for this presentation, I was thinking, if I was in your place at 10th, 11th, what would I need to understand to become confident, to become a better communicator? I also wanted to be a good speaker. But for goodness sake, I couldn't stand up and speak in front of the class at that time, let alone being a public speaker. So, I'm thinking from that perspective, for you at this age, what will add value for you? And it is with that in mind, I prepared this presentation as well. Hence, content is important. When you are delivering information related to logic and data, try and blend it with a compelling story. And that makes it, again, more easier, more stickier in your mind to remember. And then finally, just think, what should be the top 3 takeaways from this presentation? When you think from that perspective, you're able to come up with content which makes sense for the audience, and suddenly you feel that the audience are connected as well. Probably if I was delivering this presentation live in front of you, I would have got a round of applause right now. But unfortunately, since it's on Teams, I'm just going to imagine you applauded for me. Okay, the next one is cadence. Cadence is the way you deliver. This is the technical aspect that I was talking about. The volume. If I'm speaking so low like this, I don't think I'm going to have my audience attention. After a while, you'll feel like I'm going to put you to sleep. So and at the same time, if I'm talking so loud at you like this, you'll feel like I'm shouting in your ears. So a medium volume is very important for people to understand. You can't listen to music on loud volumes for too long. If it's your favorite music, you might like it, but if it's not your favorite music, you might not like it, right? So volume is really key to control the attention span of an average individual, the pace at which we talk. There is, obviously people process information depending on the knowledge of the subject and the capability of the language. The pace at which you speak is very important for them to grasp the information as well. If you talk too slow, then you will put them to sleep. But if I talk too fast, then you might just, it might just fly over your head. So the pace at which you talk should be modulated a little bit so that there is time for people to understand the message. The tonality. Tonality is also, the way in which you modulate your tone. If I talk so sharp like this, you might not like it, right? And at the same time, if I talk so loud like this, you might not like it as well. So you want to have a medium tone, find what suits you best and use that to bring your tone up. One tip for you to bring your tone is, I would say, take your right hand and keep it at the bottom of your belly button, just under your navel, and talk into your right hand. Your message should be coming from the bottom of your navel. When you talk, when your voice is coming from the bottom of your navel, that is your natural tone. Because most people tend to be nasal. They talk with their nose. And when you talk with your nose, it just tends to be so high pitched. But when you talk from your navel at the bottom of your belly, it feels like it's, you feel that vibration all over your body, and you tend to believe it more as well. Okay. And there are various styles that I mentioned. You can be subtle about it. Obviously, depending on the content that you deliver, you can be very direct. Obviously, if it's a one-on-one conversation, you'd rather be very direct about it. Analytical is presenting information which are analytical in nature, which are obviously numbers, charts, presentations, etc. That needs to be obviously woven down into stories as well. And lastly, obviously, how do you actively engage with your audience? Now, the other part is clarity, right? So when you talk about clarity, how do you give a message which is clear and simple? It's, the most difficult thing to do is to make things simple in life. We all have this nature of complicating things when we deliver, even if it's in terms of messages, even if in terms of our information, we tend to overcomplicate things. I'm guessing all know the company Apple, and you must have seen their advertisements, you've seen their products. It's kind of very clean. It's kind of, there's a lot of space around it. And Steve Jobs once said, the most difficult things to do is to make things very simple, right? So simple things, obviously, it's easy for us to remember. Even if it's in the words that you use, even if it's in the message that you give, use simple words. If I use heavy, complicated words, obviously, a lot of people are not going to understand that. If you want to capture the audience, make it clear and simple. Make it a logical, compelling story. Obviously, there is a good mix of logic and also stories blended together, which make it a compelling message. The next one is rule of 3. So obviously, our brain has something called as a working memory. Working memory can only hold 3 blocks of information, 3 numbers, 3 blocks of information. So how do you, and that's the reason why everything that we do, if we deliver, if you do it in 3, it's good, bad, and the ugly. Everything that you do, if you see it, it's in a block of 3. When delivered in that fashion, it kind of sticks quite well. The next one is understanding your audience. What is in it? So WIIFM means what is in it for me. An average human being is thinking about themselves more than about anybody else. So when you're delivering the message, if you don't have the audience in mind, then obviously you're going to lose them quite fast. So it's important to have clarity in what you deliver, and when that is tailored towards what the audience needs, then it becomes a stickier message for them. The next one is, can you explain your essence clearly, right? Whatever you're trying to present, can you deliver that message in a succinct manner for yourself? And the best way to do that is, if you are able to explain it to yourself to understand the message, you can explain it to anybody else. And this comes back to the point of content as well. The last one is credibility. To become an efficient communicator, if you want to be a good orator, or if you want to be good at public speaking, one of the important things that you want to have is credibility, past experiences, at the same time also delivering on what you promise. If you want people to trust you, the most important thing is that you need to deliver on what you promise. So in my bio, in my introduction, there were a lot of things promised you. I don't know if that's been delivered, but I can keep my hand on my heart and say that I've delivered this message to the best possible level in what has been asked for. or maybe even more. So delivering what you have promised for is most important thing of trust. The next one is rapport. How do you build rapport? So rapport is the ability to engage with your audience in a manner that feels like, I mean, I've connected with them. There's again, that's a topic in itself, but engaging and building rapport, connecting with people by asking, by small talking, by asking hello, hi, how are you. These are all techniques that you can build rapport with your audience. Making it simple with your content and language by not making it too complicated. It helps you in delivering your message quite succinctly. And the last one is by leveraging the power of storytelling. So this one I mentioned earlier, by delivering a message in a story format, whatever you're delivering feels like it's something that sticks with. I believe that, I understand that, and I trust you. That's the meaning that comes out of it. Now, one more thing that I wanted to say is, obviously, when you are presenting, let's say an essay, if you're speaking in a public stage, there is an aspect of curveballs. What are curveballs? If you follow baseball or if you follow cricket, you might see that, we call it a spin in cricket, but by throwing a googly at you, that's the term that we use in India, right? So when it takes a different tangent, it comes off as one question, but it is intended as something else. We sometimes get stumped. And at that point in time, one of the important things for one to do is to take a moment to think. You're not expected to respond instantly. You probably just need to take a moment to think and then respond. The next one is reframing and redirecting. How do you reframe and redirect? When you ask me a question, you can ask the question, did you mean this or did you mean that? By reframing the question, by paraphrasing the question, you get a moment to think, what do I need to answer next? And that split second will mean by getting an intelligent answer versus a stupid one, or by saying, sorry, I don't know. When you are in a social setting, if somebody is calling you to speak, we just need probably a couple of seconds. 30 seconds is what we need to really think and deliver. At that point in time, what do you do? To buy that time, you can empower or refer back to a colleague and say, thank you for calling me today. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And these are things that you can just, memorize yourself in a situation like that. And when then, that gives you some time to think and respond to that person as well. When a highly technical question comes to you, what do? You can just say, interesting question. How do I share more detail? How about I share more details after this meeting? Obviously, you don't need to say, I don't know. That will look stupid. But just say, that's an interesting question. How about I share more details after this meeting or after the session? That is something which comes across as quite intelligent as well, isn't it? Then sometimes it's being transparent. You can just say, I'm sorry, that question is out of my expertise. I'm sorry, I don't know. Can I introduce you to two of my colleagues, or can I introduce you to somebody else who might help you with this after the meeting, right? That's another way of intelligently responding to questions. Last is simply say, sorry, I need some time. Can I come back to you? These are some of the ways or strategies that you can use to tackle curveballs. Now, if you are really serious about presenting and becoming a professional and becoming a public speaker, then I guess the key things that you need to do is film yourself. Like I said, record yourself again and again with your mobile phone. Just keep it, record, play, ask for feedback, and then that helps you being in front. When you're in front of the camera, when it's recording, you feel like it's almost real, and that helps you practice again and again. Speech recital is a way by saying the whole thing, whole message again and again and again, and then obviously looking at voice modulation. Extreme voice training is by saying the same message very slow and saying this message very fast again to see if that message is stuck within me. So you can use different voice modulation to say message, say again and again and again, slow, fast, slow, fast. And when you say it, when you're able to modulate this in different ways, you're able to deliver that message quite succinctly as well. The last one is rehearse. I need to actually, just give me a second. My laptop battery is running low, so I need to switch rooms and plug in my battery. Just give me a second, okay? if you have, can you see me okay? Yeah, so the last one is hero worship. Hero worship is a technique that one can use to find a role model that you would like to be. You know, you would like to be like ex-person Barack Obama or Steve Jobs or Narendra Modi. Look at the top orators in the world. Are you able to see my screen? Hello?
Yes.
No, no, sir.
For some
No,
reason,
sir, no, sir.
yeah. Okay. Now are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so I was saying hero worship is another way of finding an idol that you'd like to be like, you know, model him, behave like him, speak like him, and then that is another way of becoming like a pro as well. They say fake it till you make it. That means that you obviously have to model those behaviors for a while, and after a while you become pro at it. And that's something which I wanted to tee off with by giving you one last tip. If I can just change my screen. There we go. How do we, so the concept of fake it till you make it is basically, there are so many aspects which, you know, we would want to learn. Let's take communication, for example. For a while, you would feel like, you know, I mean, you know, the first stage of any learning is understanding that we have a problem or seeing that is an area for growth. So that's called as unconsciously incompetent. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know if I'm good or bad at this. I don't know about that. And suddenly, you know, through obviously the sessions like these, you tend to understand what are some of the areas that I need to train myself on. And then you suddenly say, this is an area for growth. And then you obviously read up on it, you learn on the subject, you watch videos, documentaries, TED videos, or maybe workshops, master classes like these. And then you become consciously, then you know that you're in a stage of consciously incompetent. This time I know that I know what I don't know. There is an aspect which I don't know. And this is what I need to train up on. And through workshops and master classes like these, you get into stages what is called as consciously competent, i.e., I need to remind myself that I need to pause when I speak. I need to breathe when I speak. I need to watch my tonality. I'm conscious about my aspect and I need to switch on that behavior. And that's where, you know, the transition happens from a fake it till you make it, right? And then when you practice that skill over and over again, over a period of time, you practice and practice and practice and practice, then that skill becomes your second nature. Then you don't need to think how I need to change my tone or my modality. That happens automatically. That's where you get into a stage of unconsciously competent, i.e., I don't need to think. It's like, you know, let's take the example of riding a bicycle, right? When you were small, you had to be obviously, you know, putting training wheels and you had to, you know, cycle. And then after a while, you know, maybe after 1 year of cycling with training wheels, you then just take it off and then suddenly you realize that I can cycle without my training wheels. So that's the analogy that I'd like to give over here. How do you first know that first I need to learn cycling? Second, I need to put on my training wheels. And once you put on my training wheels, practice in a safe environment, and you practice that again and again and again and again after a while, then after a while you can take off those training wheels and then you become it's unconsciously competent. You don't have to practice so much to do that. You can just go in there and deliver that message. That's the journey that one needs to go through, and that's the journey that I invite you all to take at this juncture. Make a commitment for yourself and see what are one or two things that you learn from this masterclass that you will put in practice, and how are you gonna bring that into your daily life from tomorrow. Take a post-it note, put it on your wall, put it on your mirror, see the first thing in the morning. First thing to do is change the way you do things. Maybe I will say an interesting exercise is, you know, most of you are, I'm sure, you know, growing up in India, most of us use right hand. Even if you're left-hander, our parents would have changed us from left hand to right hand. And we most likely will be brushing our teeth with the right hand as well, right? So some of us are also naturally left-handed. So to learn a new skill, I invite you all from tomorrow onwards, maybe try and remember to brush with your left hand. When you pick up a new pattern, it is to build a habit in that. And once you build a habit, then you can build that habit and extend that habit to other things as well. That's called habit stacking, right? So I invite you all from tomorrow onwards, maybe remember to brush with your left hand, and then after a while you'll become pro at brushing with left hand, and then that's one skill that you can add to your bucket. I can brush my teeth with my left hand. There are so many things that you can do like that. So from that perspective, I invite you all to take this journey and to close this session. In summary, I just want to say if there is one skill that you can master in the 21st century, that would be to develop your communication skills. The ability to deliver your message efficiently, the ability to deliver your message as stories in a way that stick with people. That is a one skill that leaders have. All leaders and any leader that you see in any company, they don't know all the skills that they need to run a successful company. They only know to inspire people, to drive, rally people, and also they are amazing at building their relationship skills. So one thing at a time for now, if you just focus on your communication skills, if you naturally get good at your communication skills, then you can talk to people, you can build new friendships, you can understand new ideas, you can communicate to new ideas. And then naturally that develop relationships as well. And I also want to say people who communicate well naturally earn more because they get into leadership positions, they get into managerial positions quite fast, and they are relatively successful in life. And naturally, what are we doing all this for? To be happy in life. So if you want to be naturally happy, this is one skill that I invite you all to pick up. And then most importantly, pause, breathe, and connect. These are the three things that I leave you with: pause, breathe, and connect. And most importantly, say it like you mean it. You know, when it's inside you, it comes naturally from you. With that, I'd like to end the session. Thank you very much. Thank you. So there's one thing which I all I invite you all to take. It would be great. I would also like to know. Okay, I think that's not working. So yeah, I'd like to know some feedback. You know, whenever you get time, please do send me your feedback. My name is Vinod Menon. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's vinod.menon. If you look for me, you'll find me on LinkedIn. If there's any questions that you have, you can reach me over there. But I'm happy to take any questions that anybody has right now as well. I know we've run over time a little bit. We had to compensate for the time that we started. But if you do have any questions, I'm happy to spend another 10 minutes to answer those questions or share any feedback that you have.
Students, it's time for interaction. You can come forward with your queries.
This is the time for us to.
Students, please come forward with your questions.
Let's beat one of the fears to its head. No nervousness, no shyness. No one's going to judge you over here. This is the time for you to really put it into practice. Come on, guys, let's do it. Have I put everybody to sleep?
Parents also, you can ask your doubts.
Oh, please ask.
Did I scare them?
think teachers are public speakers. Teachers can ask them questions. I think so, because every day teachers are speakers. So you can also ask some doubts.
Sir, I am Rajan.
Hello, sir.
Sir, actually, due to pandemic situation nowadays, all the children, they are little lazy.
Uh-huh.
So can you suggest some more practices that they make them a little brisk? Can you give some suggestions?
So is your question, how do you, how do kids work with laziness, or how do teachers?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
Because of online classes, they are always sitting in the home.
Yes.
There is no play and there is no other extracurricular activities. So I think most of the students, they are little lazy, because usually the teachers, we experience like that. So
Understand.
can you give some suggestions to make them some little brisk?
I guess it's understanding, see, the thing is, when we are talking about a subject that we like or operating in a space that we're passionate about, we're not lazy. We are lazy because we're not interested in that. There's no movement. So one of the things that I would highly recommend for parents to do or teachers to do is to have an exercise practice. Any habit that brings an exercise in the morning, I think that's the best way for them to really kind of recharge, because lethargy kicks in when you are sedimentary and when you're in one place. But when your body is active, and that's some of the things, that's not just for students, even for us for that matter, adults as well, right? When you're sedentary and when you're in one place not moving, lethargy and laziness tends to kick in. The other thing is obviously, outside of school and classes, maybe organizing social activities, maybe cooking classes, maybe having an antakshari. I don't know. Any activity that helps them inspire, because when you are stacking an activity that has momentum, which you like, then the other activity can carry on automatically with that. It could be, maybe a singing session. We have something in the office called Casual Fridays. Beyond meetings and beyond all the stuff that we do, on Fridays, it's a session for everybody to do something, which they're passionate about, which they love to do. And that, is just another Zoom meeting, but it also helps them bring their passion out. So that's one thing. Exercise definitely is one of them, because how you start your day in the morning depends on how you, perform yourself through the day. So the first thing in the morning that you do, if it's an exercise, that helps you jumpstart. And then second thing, when you come to class, before we get into the seriousness stuff, if there is a social activity like singing, or maybe, it could be a quiz, it could be something which is a little lighthearted, that you can stack it on top of this more serious stuff that they want to do.
Thank you, sir.
So my name is Kritika.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hi, Kritika.
So my question is, has the development of the internet and social media caused a change in the way we communicate?
Absolutely, very good question. I think that has massively changed in the way we communicate. Obviously, the earlier modes of communication were one-to-one communication. Then we had radio, we had TV, we had pager, we had the mobile phones come in. So the influx of information that we have right now, there's a lot of passive communication that's happening, i.e. reading, but also the way technology has brought in different platforms like Teams, like Zoom, like WhatsApp calls, have helped people communicate more. Maybe there is an overwhelming amount of communication that's happening as well. Sometimes fake news coming out as well. So I would say we are living. Let's look at the positives for today. We're living in an age where you can search about any subject, understand about any subject at your fingertips. And this is the time for you to, communication is not just about speaking. If you want to speak and transmit your message, you have to be able to understand more about that subject. So one, information, gathering, information collection via internet has increased. At the same time, transmission through social media, through WhatsApp, has tremendously increased possibility in obviously connecting not just with your friends, but all in the region, but outside the world as well. Wherever they are in the world, it doesn't matter right now. We can call because it's WhatsApp calls and everything is free. So definitely, yes, the modality has changed, but at the same time, also it's becoming too easy also for some people to just call or message. I mean, these days when you have a happy birthday, earlier we used to go with a cake and wish them, but these days you just send them a WhatsApp message saying happy birthday. So there are modalities in the way things have changed, but I think it's for the better.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Actually, the millennial lingo is something that disturbs me quite lately, because I find a lot of my students using that language and they forget the traditional way of speaking. So,
yeah, I mean, to that, I'm on the side of the students. I guess we have to adapt. We have to also speak their language, because that's going to stay. We're not going to be able to change that. But I mean, forcing anything on anyone is not going to help. It's about telling them, the beauty of the language, getting them naturally interested in that is the way that old culture is going to stick. The new ones are definitely going to stay, even if you like it or not. They will still keep using it. So the only way to do that is naturally making them like it by songs, by participating in festivals, by obviously showing them movies. There are different ways of doing it, but that's a part of it which we have to accept. So the idea is not to exclude, but have more inclusion.
thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Sir, I have a question, sir. How to shed the stage fear among the students?
Sorry, can you say that again?
How to shed the stage fear among the students?
Yeah, I mean, by following the 6 C's that I just mentioned, I think the first and the most important part is by naturally understanding and helping them as teachers. I don't know if that's a student or if it's a teacher that asked that question, but I'm guessing that's a teacher. But I would say as guides, as mentors, as teachers to students, one of the things that we can help students is to help them understand their passion, help them understand what are their hobbies, what are the subjects that they naturally like. And when we help them uncover these subjects, then they naturally tend to talk about the subject more. When they naturally tend to talk about the subject more, the fear automatically dissipates. And then you can include other subjects as well, because when the fear is gone, then you can naturally include other aspects as well in the education. So the idea is to help them naturally identify their passion. Does that answer your question, sir?
So he's gone on hold.
Sir, one more question from Rajan. Sir, can you hear?
Yes, go ahead.
Actually, now throughout the world, all the students, they are studying through online. So what are the changes will you expect in the future, near future? Because our chairmen are always quote that the future world will be ruled by intellectual ideas. So what are the changes we will expect in the near future in the field of education?
I guess one of the biggest changes is that we will start opening up to new ideas. In school and in colleges, mostly in colleges, though, right? I mean, after you leave 11th and 12th, there are very limited choices that we have as the students. That we take up engineering, we either become a doctor, we become an engineer, or else we probably might take computer science. These are the options that we know of that is available. But now opening up online mediums, I think will help us uncover new areas, learn about new subjects. And that's one of the things that's one of the problems that we have in India also. We have a lot of people who have a lot of degrees. We have a lot of students who are engineers, but they don't have expertise in a subject. They don't know the nuances of other subjects. So that's why I think online education will play a key role in uncovering other modalities, in understanding other subjects, and making it more accessible to people as well. Because only people who had a lot of money could have gone and studied abroad, or done masters, or study in a reputed college. But now online education being available to everyone, I think it'll help us raise the awareness and consciousness of the universe globally. So that's one thing that I see as a welcome change for the pandemic. At the same time, it expedites the growth in online education. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Rajan, sir.
Sir,
Yes, Soumya, continue, Soumya.
sir, can I ask a doubt, sir?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Can the culture, nationality, and the social class can also have this effect on communication?
Obviously, I mean, that's one of the ways we are brought up with, right? A lot of the problems that people have when we come to the age of 25, 30, 35 is that we have so much baggage from culture and also the social setting that we're coming from. It's so difficult to change that, because that becomes your ideology. Because thoughts becomes beliefs, beliefs becomes ideas, ideas becomes identity, right? That's the journey. So if your thought itself is, basically, if there is radicalism involved in the thought, then that becomes your identity. And so it's so difficult to change them. Anything that you're trying to say, when the fear and all those aspects are really coming and hitting your identity, your ideologies. So if you're not able to change that, and society and culture is one of the main reasons for that, then you take a lot of time. For me, it took about 5 to 6 years to really change what I call as what you call as rules. There are, I mean, I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong word here. B stands for bullshit rules. So there are so many bullshit rules that is installed in us through sometimes culture, and it takes a lot of time to unpack that. So through the whole education system revamping, and the way they think, and communication being one of the key roles in transmitting that message, we'll be able to, I think, think from a different perspective. And that identity change will happen from a very young age. It doesn't have to happen at the age of, let's say, 25, 35. So yeah, it's important to be able to read, listen, understand, and transmit, which ideally forms your ideologies and your identities later.
Thank you, sir. Is there any who can ask the doubt?
Good questions, though. I appreciate all of you asking these questions. Very intelligent questions.
Soumya, you can proceed.
Thank you, sir. It is excellent, sir. Your presentation is packed with lots of information, and we really had a fruitful evening. You have provided some simple communications tools, strategies, and tips that are so easy to use and could produce some immediate results too. You also have shared your knowledge on how to present with confidence, sir. Really great, sir. Thank you so much. And I thank all the dignitaries, parents, teachers, and all the students present here. We can meet in yet in another Connect program. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're most